Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Dustin Kircher. I got my partner here, Ben Dreiser. We have a return guest on the show. Our most watched, our most requested guest is Ed O. Bridgman from EOB Consulting. So, you guys have not watched the previous episode, it's going to be linked on this show. Make sure you click on it. That you need to watch it. It is value packed. Ed brought so much fire to the guests and sharing his experience in this business that I'm telling you, we had the most amount of people reaching out for that and the most amount of views for any show. I think by 3 times the amount of any of our other guests, which was amazing. So we spoke with originally with Ed about 9 months ago. So we're gonna do a little catch up, see where the industry's at. I know a lot has kind of changed, and Ed is in the forefront of that. So we're glad to have you back, Ed. Appreciate you coming on the show.
It's my honor. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's jump right into it. What has changed in the last 9 months? What is going on with the hospitality industry, the outdoor hospitality industry?
So 9 months ago, the nation was undecided as to who our next president was going to be. And
Hmm.
there was a lot of trepidation. There was a lot of hesitation in the markets. And people were keeping their money pretty risk-free, wanting to know which direction the market was going to go. Now, uh, obviously, Donald Trump is in the White House. He's just come in like gangbusters and is really draining the swamp and making a lot of changes. Doge is in the is in the news every single day,
Hmm.
identifying waste, fraud, and abuse that no one can believe we were spending $20 million to have Sesame Street in Iraq or something like that. And so people are just getting blown away. And I believe that the majority of Americans uh, appreciate and like what's going on. The majority, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I believe a lot of Americans are saying, even though we're talking about some pretty high tariffs on Mexico and Canada, as much as 50%, and that's going to affect us and maybe even negatively impact us in the short term. I think most people understand that this is a negotiating tool and that in the long term, it's the best thing for our country. So, what I'm seeing is since January 5th, that people are opening up their pocketbooks and are willing to make long term investments where they were not willing to make those investments 9 months ago.
Got it. So you're seeing more money getting put into building these parks. Since 9 months ago, how many have you started kind of the process of building them out?
EOB Consulting is the largest uh, consultant in the United States, and we're starting about three a month. And just in the last 2 or 3 months, we're doing so. That's not quite one a week. New purchases of raw land and developing, which almost came to a standstill last year.
Hmm.
We're seeing almost three a week, almost three a month now of purchasing raw land and developing. Also, we're seeing quite increase in people interested in purchasing existing outdoor hospitality destinations
Hmm.
and refurbishing them, bringing them up to today's standards, which that was big 3 years ago during COVID, and people were able to get ridiculously high prices for existing RV destinations, outdoor hospitality destinations. Then that slacked off last year and dried up. Now we're seeing that pick back up again, and people are interested in that market again.
Got it. And with the three that are starting each month, what would you say is the average size that you think is making sense to build out where it's a profitable venture?
So I have people contact me all the time and they say, I've got these 10 acres, I've got these dozen acres over here, and I want to build something. And we discourage that. Uh, if you if you only have 60, 70 sites, oftentimes what you're doing is buying yourself a job for the rest of
Mhm.
your life. It's going to
Yeah.
be one of the hardest jobs you've ever done and one of the least paid jobs you've ever done. Uh, Oftentimes, now, I hate to speak in absolutes. I
Mhm.
hate to say the word always. I hate to say the word, this is never going to happen. And maybe that's why I've been divorced so many times. But I just refrain from saying always, because there's always somebody that comes up and goes, well, we did it with 12 acres and we packed 100 sites in there. There's always extenuating circumstances. They own the land outright. They're not paying interest. They're not paying principal. They did a lot of the development themselves. They own an excavator. They moved the dirt themselves. They buried the lines themselves. Okay, yeah, fine. You can do it. All right. But if you're an average person who doesn't own an excavator, who doesn't own the land outright, and you're going to have to go out and purchase the land and get a general contractor and do that, it's going to be very difficult for you to cover your fixed costs and your development costs in a 10-year period. So what I suggest people looking for is at least 20 acres. Go find 20 acres. Now, the sweet spot, which is almost impossible, it's like finding a unicorn. But if you can find 20 acres, it's close enough to a municipality that you can get onto public water and public sewer, but yet you're far enough out that you can get the proper zoning and permitting to allow you to build. That's a sweet spot. Okay. And they're very rare. But if you can get onto that, that's worth a lot more money than finding a spot a little further out that's not on public water and public sewer. So now you have to deal with a well, which isn't that big a deal. And you have to deal with septic, which is not a deal breaker. 85% of what we do is on septic. But man, when you can find that sweet spot and you don't have to use septic and you don't have to set property aside for leach lines, man, that's a sweet deal.
So 20 acres,
Minimum.
okay, minimum. And a 20-acre parcel, I know it's going to vary by county, municipality, but how many spaces per acre are you kind of seeing being allowed?
So again, that's a loaded question. And the
Yeah.
fact that, are you building a resort? Are you building a campground? Are you building a community? Are you building a hybrid? What are you building? Okay.
Hmm.
So if you're building, there's 5 different RV destination types, and one of them is a park. You do not want to build a park. Okay. Parks are the one thing that's losing money. But if you're building a resort or a campground, then those are short-term destinations, and you can get by with a smaller site plan. Okay, you can get down to 30 feet wide and 80 feet long and have a comfortable site that is for short term. Now, the
Hmm.
most popular RV destination type is the community. And the community, in order to maximize the value of that property, people are going to be there long term. And so they are going to pay more for a larger site, say 40-foot wide by 85 to 100-foot long. And they want some more green around them. So you can charge more for them though. And your development cost is less because you're putting in fewer sites per acre. So it depends on the topography. It depends on the amenities you're going to put in. It depends on whether or not you're going to do a 2-lane road. It depends on a lot of factors. So I hesitate to put a number on that question at this time.
Got it. No, fully understandable. I know it's an open-loaded question. It's just, a lot of people like to hear rules of thumb or, in the mobile park space, if it's, we've come across where it was what been 8 homes per acre, right? Basically was what we were allocated for a park. And yeah, so I didn't know if there was something like that
That's
you
really
kind of base it
cramming
off.
them in there. I tell people, if you're interviewing consultants, ask them how much you should be paying per site to develop. If they give you an answer, just hang up the phone, okay? Because we haven't talked about, is it going to be asphalt? Is it going to be concrete? Is it going to be 2-lane road, 1-lane road? We haven't laid out a design yet. We haven't looked at topography yet. We haven't even asked if it's going to be septic yet. If somebody's willing to answer that question, they obviously don't know what they're talking about. So, site cost per site, sites per acre, those are loaded questions that you have to be foolish to try to answer those without a lot more information.
I got a great question bringing that up. For people that are engaging with you or a consultant or somebody from the city, can you give a few of the right questions that they should be asking that's maybe will be more productive when they're reaching out to somebody like you? What are the questions that people should be asking when looking at a property?
That is a fantastic question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. That's a fantastic question. So you can throw out those loaded questions if you want and see if they'll take the bait. If they're trying to answer those questions and they're trying to identify what it is you want to hear, and anybody who is going to try to tell you what you want to hear instead of the truth, you don't want to do business with. Okay. You don't want to spend 3 years with these people and look back and go, oh my God, I wish I would have known XYZ. The reason why you hired the consultant is that they have experience in this industry and they have already identified the potholes. And so they can help you avoid stepping in those potholes. So one really, really, really good question is, how many of these did you design last year? Okay. And how many of them were successful? How many of them are being built? There's a lot of consultants out there who throw ink on paper and it never happens. Okay. Our designs have a very high likelihood of being developed. Second of all, the second question you should ask is, all right, your clients have built 10 or so last year. How many do you own as a consultant? How many do you own currently right now in this market? How many times day to day are you answering the RV destination questions? We own Homestead RV Community. It is the most technologically advanced RV destination in the world. And the reason why I can say that is because we beta test products, both reservation software, software and hardware, pedestals, meters, electric meters, water meters, transmitters. We beta test here for the entire industry. And we do that so that I can talk to my consultants and I can say, I used that pedestal. I have touched that pedestal. I've used that meter and I know what works with this software and I know what doesn't work as well with this software. So we design for fit and functionality. We come out to your location, we do a walkthrough of the property, and we identify what's going to fit the best for your property, what's going to maximize the value of your property. But we also make certain it's going to function. So today in America, one of the hardest things you can do is hire a good employee. They just, Americans have been given too much free money by past administrations, and too many Americans have lost a good, solid work ethic. So it's difficult to find workers. So I design RV destinations and marinas and boat and RV storage facilities and outdoor hospitality destinations like glamping. I design these things with functionality in mind. And I mean a less dependency upon workers. You do not want to be dependent upon workers. Oftentimes they're being paid by a site, so they come in with their home on wheels and they get their feelings hurt, or they stub their toe and they pack up in the middle of the night and your camp worker is gone the next morning. Okay. So you don't want to be dependent upon people in America, or not, at least not right now. So the more automated, the more functionally it works, the better.
Got it. So I want to get in a little bit more of the infrastructures that you're kind of setting up with these parks. You mentioned that a majority of the parks are going to be septic. Is there been any advancements in the septic world, like with the tanks, with leach lines, or the type of septic system you're using?
About 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that, they came out with an aerobic system. And the aerobic system, it actually can sprinkle on top of the ground instead of leaching in the ground. And it can spray you with the water that it's coming out of their tanks, and you can drink it. And it's supposed to be fine. I don't go around drinking it myself, but supposedly you can do that. Since the aerobic system came out, there hasn't been a lot of changes in the system itself. The pumps have gotten to be more, they can chew up stuff. I actually saw a demonstration. They took this lift station and they had the two pumps down in the bottom of the lift station. And this guy was demonstrating it to us. And he took a mop head, an old mop head, these cotton mops, and he threw the mop head down there, and that thing ground it up like it was nothing. And in the old days, that would have clogged it up. And I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And he goes, oh, that's nothing. He threw the wooden handle down there with the metal end on it, and it ground that up like it was nothing. Okay.
Wow.
And that's the pump I bought. Okay. 5 years ago. I was like, okay, fine. If you can grind up a wooden handle with a metal piece on the end, and it ground it up, and it didn't even change a gear. It was just and just ate it. And I'm like, okay, that's the one I want. So
nice.
Those are pretty cool. You don't have to worry about them. They work for 20 years.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It's definitely newer technology in that. And when you're building out your septic system, because I'm guessing that's got to be a huge part of the park, right? Is your waste water, basically. So when you're building out a park, figuring out where the leach lines are going to go, how many full-time spaces would you say can go to like 1,000 linear feet of leach lines?
As a rule of thumb, you can put, they're actually getting bigger and bigger all the time. In the old days, it was 6, okay? But as a rule of thumb, but nowadays, you can get more and more and more on these bigger pumps, because the pumps are so powerful and so huge. And but it depends. It doesn't so much depend upon the septic system as it depends on the perk ability of the land. We don't do perk tests. Okay. So we lay out the design and we provide some space downhill for the leach lines. We look at the topography and find the best place to put your leach lines. And then we'll put a dog park over the top of it, or, a ball field or something like that. You can't put permanent structures on top of leach lines. But what the client will do is take our CAD design to their local civil engineer, and the local civil engineer will come out and run a perk test and decide how big of a field of leach lines you require. That limits how many sites you can put on more than the size of the tanks.
Got it. That's a great answer. And it's just always something that's kind of like didn't again, I know it's a broad question and it really depends on the site and the like you mentioned the perk testing. Uh, what would you say is a good perk test rating?
And then can you explain what perk test means if anybody doesn't quite understand what perk test is?
So in Alabama, here at Homestead RV Community, we are on public water and public sewer.
Yeah,
But
that's nice.
if we're on sand, okay? Water falls from the sky. We got 11 inches of rain the other day in 11 hours. And it falls
Jeez.
from the sky and it doesn't even puddle up. It just goes straight down through this sand like a filter, okay? And 2 hours later, there's not even water standing, okay? It just goes straight down through the ground. Now, if you were in Texas, in Austin area, you're sitting on a solid shale rock, okay? You're sitting on a solid mantle of rock. And when in my ranch in Texas, we had to use dynamite to dig a fence post hole, okay? You can't put a shovel in it, okay?
Yeah.
So here you can dig a 5 foot deep fence post hole as deep as you can reach down. You can pull out sand and keep on digging. But there we couldn't do that. So water in Austin goes sideways on top of this shale rock and it doesn't percolate down. Okay. Whereas here in Alabama, the water goes down and goes through this sand layer that filters the water and it goes into a water underground water basin. Okay. And so you can literally dig, maybe with an excavator, maybe with a backhoe, you can dig 6, 7, 8 feet deep, and the hole will come up with water. It'll have the bottom of the hole will have a couple of feet of water in it. It's very difficult to do that in Texas. So the perk test is the perk ability, the percolation of allowing water to go down instead of sideways.
Ah, interesting. So, okay, what now? That's kind of some of the infrastructure. I'm guessing the next thing would be electrical is probably the next biggest thing. If you're on city power, that's awesome. Have you built any parks that it was private utilities at all?
Where you built your own power plant?
Well,
Oh.
no, not necessarily that, but just I guess you have just one master meter, and or are you building everything out now separately metered?
Okay, that's a really, you guys are coming up with some good questions. You must have studied or something. Okay, those are some
We
really
took
good
notes
questions.
from last time we talked
Yeah,
with you.
and those aren't questions that I normally get either, by
Mm,
the way. Those are some really good questions. So what it amounts to is it depends upon your exit strategy. And that might sound kind of odd, but are you building and holding this after you develop this? Are you going to hold on to it and just work it yourself or hire a general manager and just have mailbox money and your kids are going to have mailbox money and you're going to hold on to this thing for the foreseeable future 10, 15, 20 years? Then we build it one way. If you're building it and you want to build something fantastic and immediately put it on the market and flip it, a lot of things change in the way we develop it and the way we design it.
mm,
If your exit strategy, something that has come up recently that didn't even exist 6 years ago, was buying and selling the parts. What people have learned is the word synergy means that the sum of the parts adds up to more than the whole. So if you're thinking about buying it and then flipping it, so let's say you bought this, let's say it cost you $5 million to build this thing, okay? And you immediately put it on the market for $7.5 million, okay? And you walk away after 2 years of pulling your hair out and getting it all done, and you walk away with a 50% profit, and you say, I can do that. I can live off that. Okay, that's fine and dandy. But you could have built it for $5 million and you could have sold the individual sites, had it platted differently, had it designed differently, so that you could sell the individual sites, and you could have sold it for 8.5 million, because you sold individual sites. There's a little bit more headache. It's different in the way we design it, but as a result, you picked up an extra million, and it cost you an extra $30,000 in attorney fees. So you spent an extra 30 and you got an extra million. That's pretty good return on your investment.
Yeah. Are you seeing more people sway towards that type of park?
Yeah, we're
Hmm.
seeing a lot of that. So when going back to one of your original questions, what do you ask consultants? Have you ever, talk about your exit strategy. Have you ever built one that immediately you start selling sites? And I'm probably about the only consultant in the United States who we sell individual sites here at Homestead RV Community. Now, to be clear, it's not that's not my main exit strategy. Okay. But remember, Homestead serves three purposes. Not only is it a marketing, it's not only my marketing tool where people come to see the latest state-of-the-art equipment and how you can make this function for you, but it's also a profit center. We have 95% occupancy, and we're carrying a 4.8 Google review. We've been open 4 years this month, and we have over 380 Google reviews. So we're proud of that, but it's also the beta test place. And when it comes to beta testing, when I have so many clients that want to sell individual sites, I need to know how to do that. Okay. I need to feel the pain of going through the attorney process to have every site platted. I need to learn, I need to find those potholes, step in those potholes, and know how to avoid those potholes and know how to get out of those potholes so that I can relay that to my clients. So I have clients that are building or buying existing sites. Those potholes already exist. So I need to know how to get out of them. I have other clients that are building from scratch. So I need to know how to avoid potholes. So I went through the pain of attorney fees and having everything platted differently and having everything laid out so that I could sell individual sites. And I have sold individual sites. Now, I marked the price really high because that's not, I don't want to sell more than 50% of the sites and then have to go before a board of directors to be able to make a decision. I sold a portion, a small percentage of my sites so that I still own the majority, and so that I don't have to go ask somebody permission to, because I do a lot of beta testing. I'm updating all my camera system right now. I'm updating all my camera systems. My camera system was fine before. There was nothing wrong with it, but they came out with a new system, and my clients want to know what's the best system to use. So we are testing right now a new camera system that is phenomenal. Okay. And I just got through saying earlier, I don't want to be dependent upon workers. So I can log on to this camera system from my phone or any computer anywhere, and I can see anything that's going on, and I can direct a monkey who I have. I shouldn't say that out loud. I'm not going to say out loud that I hire monkeys, but I'm going to say out loud that when you're hiring people in America today, you've got to make everything monkey proof. But I can monitor primary functions from anywhere anywhere that I can log on to a network, and I did that on purpose.
I love that you're constantly evolving and testing out different products for your clients, even though you don't have to, because a lot of systems you're working with already
They
working
work fine.
well, and now
Exactly.
you just want to learn and try the best stuff or the newest
Exactly.
stuff, right? And
Exactly.
that's awesome. I highly doubt there's many other consultants out there that it would are doing that. And one, we know there's no one doing as much as you. So that's
Well, my old camera system was 24 cameras, and it was fine. It worked fine. It was the same camera system that they used downtown at the convention center, and President Trump went to the convention center. And so they said, you know, this is good enough for the president. This is a fine system. Well, my new system with 48 cameras, it blows that one out of the water. Okay. And I'm paying 40 some $1,000s to upgrade this. Well, if I had to go before a board of directors and say, I want to upgrade my camera system, they would have laughed me out of the building. So I don't have to do that. I don't have to justify that to anybody. I'm doing
Yeah.
it because I made that investment so that I can go to my clients and I can say, this is the camera system and this is how you use it. And this is, see this fisheye right here?
yep.
These fisheyes don't work very well. So I've got 48 cameras. I've got about 20 different styles of cameras. I've got license plate readers along here that I'm reading everybody that comes in, everybody that goes out. I have facial recognition and I have gait recognition. Some people don't even know what gait recognition is. If you're
No, what is
walking
that?
towards me and I see your face, I can tell you who you are. If you're walking away from me or sideways and I can't see your face, I can tell who you are by the way you walk, your gait.
I like the license plate one. That's pretty cool. Just so you know your guests or your occupants that are coming in and out. If they're especially like for us in our parks, we take their license plates number, right? So that way, yeah, people coming out, you can automatically identify, was that a guest or is this someone random?
Exactly. So we know who's on site at all times. Pretty darn close. Okay. So that car may have the husband leaves and the wife might still be here. But for the most part, we know who's here and who isn't. And the reason that's important is when you have a fire in an RV, okay, it doesn't take very long to burn. Okay. And so the fireman comes rushing in here. I want to know if there's somebody in that RV or not. Okay. So I can do a report in seconds and I can tell you that this car belongs to that RV and this car left. They haven't come back yet. So, Mr. Fireman, you probably don't need to risk your life to break into that burning RV and try to look for somebody, okay? Because they're not here, all right? But on the other hand, if I saw where that car came back in, Mr. Fireman, let's get some water on that thing. Let's see if we can bust the door down. And actually, busting the door down is not the best way into an RV, but that's a whole nother story. But let's see if we need to get somebody out of there.
So at any moment, you can log into your system and you know what car is there versus not there, and you easily
Exactly.
multiply. That's a
Exactly.
technology that
So within
great for
seconds,
us.
we call 911. We've never had to do this, but we can call 911 and get the firemen here. And before they get here, I can tell them if there's the likelihood is there's somebody in there or not.
That's
That's
great for
great.
check-ins and check-outs. It can monitor a lot of things above and beyond. Safety is one of the best things but yeah, it can monitor a lot of really good things. So it could tell
Yeah.
you like, oh, this person was supposed to check out now, but their car is still there, so they're late for checkout, and you'll know that right away.
Exactly. So the next thing I'm considering, I don't even, there's a lot of things I'm considering, but one of the things I'm considering is, so this car pulls up to the gate. Do they have a reservation? And it opens up the gate. It recognizes the car and opens up the gate. The problem with that is a lot of people don't have license plates in the front, and some people don't have license plates in the back. But once you get that technology, you can put magnetic locks on your bathrooms and on your laundry. And does this person a neighbor that's jogging down the street and wants to use your bathroom, or the mailman, we have really clean bathrooms, and the mailman times their visits so that they use our bathrooms. But are the neighbors using your laundry? Stuff like that. I want to know your pickleball court, your swimming pool. Are these people that are paying guests, or are these people that are driving in and they shouldn't be?
Yeah, that's great. So we're kind of on this topic now. What are you seeing the trends in the industry? I know we kind of talked about it, potentially, selling of spaces. Um, but what other trends are you kind of seeing in the industry right now?
So 5 years ago, I said we got to monitor and meter electricity. And while we're at it, we might as well be monitoring and metering water. And I couldn't get anybody on board with that. So worked with Tyler Duffy of Camp Life, and we were the first to be able to meter and monitor electricity. So the average RV uses 20 kilowatt hours on the average day. The average RV on the average day uses 20 kilowatt hours of electricity. We provide 25 kilowatt hours per day, and we work with our software automatically. It's all virtual to meter how much electricity they used, how many days they were here. If they were here 4 days, we give them 100 kilowatt hours. If they exceeded that, it's automatically charged to them. Nobody goes out and physically reads the meters. It's all done automatically. That has become the norm. So today, that is normal to be able to meter electricity. Almost everybody understands the importance, because we have such a discrepancy, such a wide variance between the people that are using an average amount of electricity or less, and the people that are electricity hogs, okay, that are coming in with electric floors, air dryers, washer and dryers, electric heated floors, 3 air conditioners on top, that are just blowing the electricity out of the water, okay? So burning 200 kilowatt hours, or 10 times the average per day. And so you've got to meter electricity. I think 95% of the people in the industry understand that. I think 70% of the industry has figured out a way to do it. Most of them are reading meters manually. We see a lot of, again, you're dependent upon a person to go out and do that. It's raining, it's cold. You think an 8 is a 3, or a 3 is an 8, or a 9, or something, and you transpose numbers. We don't have any of that problem. So the industry is going more and more the ability to do that virtually, whereas in the last couple of years, everybody's been doing it manually. We have a virtual store. We don't have anybody standing in our store. It's virtual. And we have a virtual office. And we're seeing more and more people go towards the virtual office and the virtual store. And again, we're decreasing our dependency on manpower. Okay, so if that store is open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's at least 2 employees right there. Ours is virtual. We have no employees in the store, and sell just as much stuff as everybody else. So
Is that more of a community-based type park, or is that, what kind of park are you talking about when you're not able to have, or when you're able to not have as many employees?
Well, we are a community for sure.
Okay.
So when you wrap your brain around the fact that there's 5 different RV destination types, the next thing you should ask is which one is in the most demand. Communities are by far in the highest demand. They're less expensive to develop than a resort, and you have more long-term guests. But there's just a higher demand because people are staying in their RVs longer, whether it be for a season or long-term being a season, or maybe even indefinitely. People are living in or choosing to live in RVs rather than brick and mortar homes, whether it be an apartment or their own house. So there's a higher demand for communities. But your question, I was I didn't forget it. Everybody can take an advantage of a virtual store. It doesn't have to be a community. You can have a resort and still have a virtual store. And most people are figuring out the importance of having a virtual store, because, as I mentioned earlier, you just can't find two people to pay them enough money that they sit there and they sit in the store waiting for a customer to come in that day. Okay. And it's just, it's too much loss due to theft. There's too much loss due to an employee sitting there dusting shelves so that they look nice, putting up a display rack. We don't have any display racks. We don't have shelves like that. Everything is into storage and locked up. Okay, we have zero loss due to theft. Okay,
What is a virtual store? Can you explain a little bit more? Because we've heard like a store that has all the items where there's a self-serve kiosk and you're just depending on clientele to be honest. Is that what you're talking about, or is this something? Can you explain
That's one way, but another way is that you go to the store on the app and you have these items. Like if you want a chair, if you want that chair, it shows you the chair, it tells you all about it. You pay for it online, just like Amazon. Everybody, I mean, almost everybody buys stuff on Amazon, has their food delivered and their meals delivered. You put it in the cart, you pay for it. We are paperless, we are cashless. Okay, we don't take cash. We don't have paper. We don't print out anything. And once they buy that chair, we get a buzz on the work phone that says site 24 purchase this chair. And somebody goes over, a camp worker or myself, we go over to the storage room, unlock it, get that chair and deliver it. So it's just like Amazon, except you get your package in 10 minutes instead of a day. It's a
Nice.
virtual store.
That's cool. Like that.
And you have like, do you have like, are there ice cream or candy bars? And is there stuff like that in your store? Or is it more?
There could be. I choose to not have anything with an expiration date. I choose not to put anything in my store that I wouldn't consume myself. We sold solo stoves. We sold solo stoves for a long time because I like solo stoves. Okay, we don't provide a fire pit, and so I want people to buy a solo stove from me, buy firewood from me, and take their solo stove with them when they leave. But it turned out that we couldn't. Solo Stove made us a retailer, wholesaler. They made us a wholesale distributor, but Solo Stove sold us solo stoves at our price, and you could buy it at Ace Hardware for like our same price. So we had trouble moving solo stoves. So we're not buying any more solo stoves. We're directing people to go to Ace Hardware.
Got it.
If I can't make a profit on it, why am I selling it?
Yeah.
Why am I storing it if I can't make a profit on it?
A question. I know one of the trends that we talked about, to rewind just a little bit, you were talking about that a lot of people are developing these parks and almost subdividing the spaces so they can sell the space. Can you talk a little bit more in detail how that kind of model works? Is it you sell it and then you forget it? Is there an HOA? Does that person have to continue to pay? I know you said some people are doing it, they can get an extra million, but does that extra $1 million come with them having to always be in charge of this HOA or the thing that kind of overlooks at the entire park? How are these developers kind of looking at it? And what are you saying? And what is after the fact? How does that piece of land work? Is it part of the community? Is it completely subdivided?
Okay, so you've got a community and you've got X number of spots. And you ask me, the consultant, to design it in such a way that you could easily subdivide it and sell the individual sites. And you're going to have somebody come in, if it's an area like in the Southeast that's growing real fast, you're going to have somebody come in and buy 10 sites. Because, like, for example, once we sell 10 sites, we raise the price. Okay. Well, if he buys 10 sites and we raise the price 10% on the remaining balance, he can turn around and he or she can put theirs on the market at 5% profit and undercut us 5% and make 5% profit in a month. Okay. And, you know, on $1 million investment, that's not too bad. Okay. So we put a contract together that said, if you're going to sell within the first year, you have to give us first right of refusal. And we locked in a sales price that we would buy it back from them the day they bought it. So, okay, so the day they bought it, they could sell it back to us, and we locked in a maximum that we would be willing to pay for it in that first year, because we're selling so fast that every 10%, we raise the price of the remaining balance 10%. So if he waits a couple of years, he could turn around and sell it for 20% more than he paid for it. So people are going to buy them as investments. But there is a condo association fee, a COA, that you collect as the primary owner. You can, the day they buy it, it's in the contract, they put 2 months worth of condo association fee in the condo association fund, because you're building up that fund. You want that fund to grow, and you want it to grow heavier on the front end. So you're building up that fund, and out of that fund comes maintenance, pool maintenance, lawnmower maintenance, landscaping, insurance on the common areas. That all comes out of the condo association fund. Okay, it's being fueled monthly by the people who own sites. So they purchase their site, and then they pay a condo association fee monthly. And then some of them have purchased multiple sites, or they purchased them so that they could use them during a season, and then they're not using them the rest of the year. So you can, in our case, we say you can rent it Airbnb if you want. If you want the headache of renting it out, go ahead. But if you want us to rent it for you and take responsibility for keeping it filled, and taking responsibility for working with the people that are renting your space, we want 25%. So you tell us how much you're going to rent it for, $1,000 a month, and you tell us when you're not going to be using it. You want us to rent it from this time to this time, and we'll rent it for you. And we're going to collect 25% fee for doing that. So now you sold the site, you continue to collect a COA fee, and you're collecting a rental fee on top. You're making money off of that site after you sold it.
Got it. Interesting. And kind of picking back on like the trends you're seeing in the industry, what are you seeing guests evolving into? What are you seeing on the guest side?
That's an excellent question. So maybe 10 years ago, when I've been in this industry about 16 years, but maybe 10 years ago, the average camper was retired. The average long-term camper especially was retired. So 55, 60 years old and older, and traveling around the country and seeing their grandkids. Today, there is a severe low-income housing shortage in America, with the average brick and mortar home in 2023 selling for $571,000 and the interest rates being crazy high, the first time home buyer cannot afford to get into a brick and mortar home. So with the average RV being the majority RVs sold are fifth wheels, and the average fifth wheel being 42 feet in length and selling for less than $100,000 brand new, first time home buyers are choosing to get into an RV. So we're seeing a lot of younger families, younger people who are buying RVs. The average American moves every 4.2 years. So if you bought a brick and mortar home and you're paying principal and interest, the first 4 years you're paying all interest. So you get ready to move and you want to sell, you've got very little equity built up in this house. So unless there has been a natural appreciation and the value of that house has appreciated, you're very likely to lose money, especially if you're someplace other than the Southeast United States. People are moving southeast, people are moving away from California and the West Coast and the North. People are moving southeast long term. So, so we're seeing a lot of younger people, we're seeing a lot of families, seeing people with children who want to give their kids an experience. So they're coming to this area for a year and then moving to another area for a year and another area for a year. I spoke with a gentleman today. His oldest daughter had lived or had visited 49 states, and his youngest daughter had visited 46 states. And so, and they were planning to move to Spain for a year. They live places, they go through places and stay for months at a time and experience that culture. And they chose Spain because they speak Spanish and they wanted their kids to be fluent in Spanish. So, you know, millennials, they want experiences and they want to go experience the Grand. You can't just see the Grand Canyon in a weekend. You got to be close enough that you can hike it and feel it and take a burro down in it and take a helicopter ride over it. Otherwise, you haven't really experienced the Grand Canyon. You can't just go there for a couple of days. Okay, so, you know, Zion Park, you can't just see it in a couple of days. You got to get out and roll around and feel it. Okay, so that's what millennials want to do. They want to be there long enough that they can roll around on it and feel it. And then, not to contradict myself, but our baby boomers, the 65 and up people, they've lived through these housing cycles in the past, okay? And they've seen it, okay? High interest rates in the 80s, you know, 1980 when the housing market crashed and there was 18% interest rate, they saw that, okay? They lived that. So they're selling their brick and mortar homes that they raised their 3 kids in, their 4-bedroom brick and mortar home on a half-acre site. They're selling them now for more money than they ever dreamed of. And they're putting them in, you know, a nice Class A motor coach and a brand new truck behind it. And they're traveling around and seeing all the grandkids for the next few years. And they're expecting that 2, 3, 4 years from now, interest rates are going to be lower. The price of brick and mortar homes are going to come back down, and they're going to get back in a brick and mortar home 3, 4 years from now that is smaller and fits their needs at that time better. So we're seeing both ends of the spectrum. But in 2023, more millennials purchased RVs than any other age group. That was in 2024, baby boomers bought a little bit more than millennials, but it was almost neck and neck. So we're seeing people live long term in their RVs. That's the trend. Long term being defined as more than a couple of months.
Yeah, nice. So we're approaching about an hour here, Ed, and again, action-packed
Sorry.
episode. No, this is great. I appreciate it. So before we take off, I want to know, like, what is your number one to do? Like the one thing that you should always include or think about when you're building a new park, and what is the one thing that you shouldn't do when you're building a new park?
Stop using the word park.
Gosh dang it. What do you call it? It's what the
Or community.
Until you know what you're building, let's call it an outdoor hospitality destination.
okay.
Okay. You don't know if you're going to put glamping in it. You don't know if it's going to be a community. You don't know if it's going to be a resort. You don't know for sure what you're making. Let's call it a destination, because the park has a negative bias to it. You don't want your neighbors saying, "Oh no, it's another park." I seen one of those over off the highway, exit 14 over there. You go by there and that place has been run down and it looks like junk. And I don't want that in my neighborhood. If you say I'm building a destination, that gives them a little more open mind. If you say you're building a resort, then they conjure up another idea. Okay.
Got it.
So destination is the safest way to define it until you decide what it is you're going to do.
For the sake of this conversation, we'll say the community destination, which that's the
Okay.
hottest, the best you're saying to build. So with it being a community, what would be the one thing you must do and the one thing not to do?
Well, community, that's the easiest answer that's the easiest question you've asked me all day. So people are accustomed to brick and mortar communities. All right. They grew up in brick and mortar communities. They understand what people look for when they're looking for a community. You want to be close to work. All right. And as more and more people are returning to the workplace and less people are going to be allowed to work remotely, where's the manufacturing? Where's the Walmart distribution center? Where's the Amazon distribution center? Where's something that is in shipbuilding? Where's something in manufacturing? Who's building car plants? You're going to see car plants coming back into America very fast. Okay. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Toyota or who it was the other day, said they were going to open up $1 trillion car plant. They were spending $1 trillion. I think it was in Pennsylvania. These foreign car companies are coming back to America because of the tariffs. So you want to be close. You want to be close to that. Okay, those workers are going to be living in RVs and they're going to be having a good paycheck. So what do you look for? You look for a grocery store. You look for a bank. You look for a school. Okay, a good school. Those are the types of places that people who want to live in a community look for. So be on a blacktop highway. Okay, if I spent $100,000 for this RV, I don't want to go on a mile of dirt roads to get there. Okay, I don't want to drive a mile of dirt roads every day to go to the grocery store. I want to be on a blacktop.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like the to do for community is location. Location is the biggest thing for the to do. Now, I guess you could say location is the not to do. What about the actual build out of the park? What is the of the community destination would you say don't do at a community destination? Did it bring back a heart?
The main thing you need to do is hire EOB Consulting, and we'll help you with we'll help you figure that out. Okay. There's I don't know how to answer that question. The main thing is get a hold of EOB Consulting and look me up at EOB-consulting.com or 512-785-1379. And I will, for free, I will look over any place that you're considering. I'll spend 30 minutes on it. I'll look at the location. I'll look at Google Earth. I'll look at Google Maps. I'll see what you're next to, and I'll give you my high level opinion of whether or not you should consider pursuing this or not. I'll do that for free. Go to EOB-consulting.com and read step by step. It'll take you from buying raw land to finished product. Read step by step. Do that first, then start looking for some land, then contact me and say, what do you think of this piece of property I'm considering purchasing? And those are your first 3 steps right there.
Nice. Well, Ed, again, appreciate you coming on the show. I'm pretty sure this is going to be another must-watched and most-watched episode. So, guys, you heard, reach out to Ed at EOB-consulting.com if you have parks that or potential park or land that you're going to develop. Make sure not park, destination.
Destination.
The third time you come on the show, I'll get that. Trust me. But Ed, we do appreciate you so much for being on the show and sharing the knowledge and going really in depth again on the questions, because that's how most people learn, is not the high level but more in depth. So we appreciate you again coming on the show.
It's my pleasure. I love talking to you guys and happy to do it.
Thanks, Ed. Well, I'm pretty sure there'll probably be a request for episode 3, and we'll let you know.
All right. Be
right,
specific. Tell me exactly what it is. Let's dwell down deeper into some very specifics. We've hit the high level now a couple of times. Let's get real specific and get into some dirty details. That's fun. I'm passionate about this industry.
Yes.
I love talking about it. So I'm very excited about helping any way I can. I'll help anybody I can.
Perfect. Well, guys, you heard that. So if you listen to this episode, write your questions in the YouTube chat, and we'll make sure we bring those up for the next episode. So, all right, Ed, we appreciate you. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.